Next speaker is the Honorable Charles Ramson. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and allow me to join in the Right Honourable Member, Mr. Gaskin, in sharing tribute and condolences to the Right Honourable Member, Ms. Hughes, for the loss of our mother-in-law, and please extend the same message to your husband, my learned friend, Mr. Hughes, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the entire half of this House. The substantive part of my presentation, Mr. Speaker, will be a focus on youth as it relates to this budget. But before I do, I have noted with dismay the Right Honourable Member, when he began his presentation on the budget, the reference to Guyanese people rejoicing on the declaration of the APNU-AFC coalition being elected as the government. But true to recent form, the Right Honourable Member has been economical with the truth. The Minister neglected to mention that about half of the population of Guyana was not only saddened, but shed bitter tears of disappointment and grief with the declaration of that very result. Especially since they know to themselves that this very result did not reflect the true will of the Guyanese people. And that this election was driven by external forces. But at first, I see many members on the opposite side, many members frequently holding up the budget speech.
Yes, the budget.
Right. And at first I was very pleased when I saw the theme being intituled "A Fresh Approach to a Green Economy." And then when I started "A Fresh Approach to a Green Economy," oh no, "A Fresh Approach to the Good Life in a Green Economy." I thank you, I thank you. And then I started listening to the content of the budget speech. And then I realized the reason for the very same theme. The budget and the coalition government have gone so green that they've started to recycle PPP ideas. And what worries me more than the budget deficit is the deficit of ideas that comes out of this budget. I noticed, as most Guyanese did, that the very first budget made a great emphasis on a green economy, which, as most people would know, represents an environmentally friendly, policy-driven economy. Despite this constant reference to a green economy, there has not been a single iota of an environmentally friendly policy contained therein. And if the government was serious about having a green economy, the single greenest decision that they could have made to make this economy a carbon neutral economy would have been the execution of the Amila Falls project. The Amila Falls project would not only emit virtually no carbon, but would cut electricity in half, and more importantly, the cost of production will remain fixed for decades to come, while oil prices will continue to fluctuate as it has in the years of the past, and will no doubt in the future. It therefore leads one to conclude that the inclusion of the term green economy is an overt message by the APNU to the AFC that the APNU is stamping its authority of its dominance in this relationship. I see the Honorable Member, Mr. Harmon, smiling. Stamping their authority of dominance in this relationship in what turned out to be a marriage of inconvenience, or what the French call a mésalliance, because the AFC brought very little support to this table. Turning to youth. The first budget of any government, especially of any new government, is most critical. Why? Because it not only sets the financial programs and allocations for that government, but it sends the message. It sends the message to the public, to the businesses, to the private investors, both internal and external. So this specific budget is more than just about numbers. It is emblematic of what the new government stands for and intends to stand for in their tenure in office. And having heard this budget, I could not help be reminded of Shakespeare's Hamlet. And I see the Right Honourable Member, Minister of Education, has perked up a bit. When sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in bantallions. But context is always important. And prior to this election, the APNU AFC coalition sung the hymn of youth, 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 and more youth, and rode the wave of youth straight to the seat of power. And now upon the assumption of that seat of power, how have their actions and their budget been reflected in the welfare interests and demands of the youth? The coalition election slogan of "It is time," now in government, has been translated into "It is mine," neglecting the youth of Guyana. How? First, the APNU AFC government relegated and demoted the Ministry of Youth into a subsumed, subordinate something that we in the People's Progressive Party totally disagree with. In fact, the People's Progressive Party not only believes that there should be a youth ministry and a youth minister, but that young people should occupy the seat of power in all spheres of the state, especially in Parliament, especially in the cabinet. And I would go further. I would argue that the absence of youth representation from the coalition government MPs and the cabinet is unconstitutional. You laugh. You laugh. And this budget, you laugh at the youth, but the next election, the youth will be laughing at you. Because they'll be saying goodbye and good riddance. This budget should have been guided by the youth and a focus on youth. And you only have to look at the supreme law of our country, the constitution of our country. If you check the preamble, and I'm sure many of the honorable members have not even taken the time to look at the preamble to see what it says. The preamble says, we, the Guyanese people, acknowledge the aspirations of our young people, who, in their own words, have declared the future of Guyana belongs to its young people, who aspire to live in a safe society which respects their dignity, protects their rights, recognizes their potential, listens to their voices, provides opportunities, etc. And you laugh when I say it was unconstitutional. But if the honorable member may listen, he may learn. Article 28 of the Constitution says every young person has a right to ideological, social, cultural, vocational development, and the opportunity for responsible participation in the development of the socialist order of society. Leaving us out of government and cabinet does exactly the opposite. And as I am on the subject of the Constitution, I see as part of the coalition government's new buzzwords, audit and commission of inquiry, that there is now a commission of inquiry of inappropriate composition for constitutional reform. But I have some advice for the coalition government. This one free of charge. Don't expect any additional ones. That the coalition government doesn't need to rewrite the Constitution. The coalition government needs to reread the Constitution. And before we look at the numbers, let's look at the budget speech. The same budget speech that is being touted as some rescue to Guyana. Let's look at the budget speech as it relates to youth. I've circled it. 2 measly paragraphs on youth. 2 measly paragraphs on youth. And the big statement in there. What is the big statement in there? That there is a draft youth policy. A draft youth policy. The youth are the reason that you now occupy those seats of power. And we deserve more than just 2 measly paragraphs in your budget presentation. And more than just platitudinal statements about a draft youth policy. Now let's look at the numbers. Though somewhat convoluted, since there is no longer a Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, you have 4 months expenditure under the People's Progressive Party Civic, 4 months under the coalition government, and then a budgeted of four months remaining, which can take us also into April of next year. So it can exceed more than 4 months, even though many social and Facebook commentators are at pains to say that there's only a 4-month budget. It is not. It is not. It is an expenditure for the entire year of 2015. In addition, it can take us, as it more likely will, to next year in April. So it is more than just 4 months. But let's see what you did in that budgeted period. If you turn to page 231 of the estimates, these estimates right here, you will see for the current expenditure, the budgeted period for current expenditure, a grand total of $63 million on youth. Now you think that that was an error. You turn to page 586 for capital expenditure, another grand total of $50 million on youth. So, many of you may not be able to have a comparison, so I will help you to have a comparison. The People's Progressive Party in 2014 budgeted $535 million on current expenditure, and for capital expenditure, $961 million for capital expenditure, which means that the People's Progressive Party's budget spent more on youth in 1 month than the coalition government would spend for the entire budgeted period. By far. By far. And what is even more symbolic? What is even more symbolic is where the youth item appears in the program budget. In the program. Where it comes under the Ministry of Education it appears as the last item, the very last item, almost like an afterthought.
The honorable member has 5 minutes more.
Almost like an afterthought, an errant child, a bastard child whose father reluctantly acknowledges him. This is what the youth on the street call a B5 budget. No good, useless. And it's no wonder the youth who voted for the coalition feel disillusioned, disaffected, and disenfranchised. But most of all, betrayed. The PNC had 23 years to prepare a youth plan. The AFC had another 10 years. Now they assume power, and you are now about to go and draft a youth policy? And are you going to tell, so we are going to have to wait longer for your youth policy to be enacted? And are you going to tell the same youth that this youth policy was 90% completed by the People's Progressive Party? Where is the big youth program? Where is the big focus? Where is the big youth vision? Where is the big youth project? Where is the big youth employment? Where is the school cash grant? All talk, no walk. All game, all gear, no game. How are you going to tackle youth employment, unemployment, bullying in schools, underage drinking and drug use, suicide, truancy in schools, youth crime? And the big solution cannot be to close bars at 2 a.m. and send everyone home. Total incompetence. Total incompetence. And with every passing day, this coalition government has proven itself to be yesterday's men with yesterday's ideas.
Honorable member, you have 2 minutes more.
And from the opposition tables, you had all the facile solutions for this country. Now you are in power, and all you have are flaccid solutions. And with the average age of cabinet members at 62 years old, no wonder. Square pegs in round holes. The old Guyanese saying, you can't plant plantain and get cassava. We the youth of Guyana deserve better. We are more than just an afterthought. We are more than an errant bastard child who is reluctantly recognized by their father. We are the country's lifeline, the backbone. We are the past, present, and future of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. And we refuse to be ignored and silenced and to be told to wait until you have a program for us next year and to be told to go home at 2 a.m. So it is for this reason, that I cannot with any stretch of clemency vote to approve this budget. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.